Today, Cynthia and I react to another Psychology in Seattle podcast, this one with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, #1, it says. So we're going to have some more of these. Narcissism, and Dr. Kirk Honda is going to react again from Psychology in Seattle. Let's get started.
And asking me to react to Andrew Tate. So let's get to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see what he says.
Money isn't real. If you know what you have, you don't have much. And once you reach a certain level of money, you don't even know what you have. And you certainly don't own what you have. Outside entities, which you may have a stake in, own what you have. People who have a lot of money understand.
Okay, so right off the bat, he seems to be charismatic in his approach, in his look, in his speech style. He's assertive. I don't even understand. Let's rewind this. What did he say?
Money isn't real. If you know what you have, you don't have much.
Money isn't real. If you know what you have, you don't have much. Is he saying we should all go back to a simple life, or is it the opposite? What is he saying?
Level of money, you don't even know what you have, and you certainly don't own what you have. Outside entities, which you may have a stake in, own what you have. People who have a lot of money understand. It's very difficult for me to even say how much money I have, but I can have anything I want, anytime I want.
I really, literally have no idea what he's saying. If I was to take a guess, he's saying that he doesn't have a lot of money, but he can have anything he wants because he has connections or know-how or something. I think that's what he's saying.
No, he's saying that money is a tool, that it's a concept, that it's used to move your agenda forward in the world. And he's also saying that past making a certain amount of income, it means less to you. There's diminishing returns as far as the meaning of money once you're beyond a certain point.
And I've had some bad dates.
How do you think you've done on the date?
I don't really give a shit.
Wait, so this is the video that people have been sending me for several weeks now, and it's a dating show.
I'm Andrew Tate III. I'm here because I was invited. Is that a good answer?
That's fine.
Yeah, I was invited, so I thought I'd come along. Why not? There's already love in the universe. I've already found love. I found love with reality, my friend. I'm already in love. I'm in love with waking up every day. You know, there's people who are trying to stop me breathing and they've yet to succeed. I'm already in love. Love.
So I will observe that he is one of those media individuals who, or just a person, I suppose you could run into him at a party and still make the same observation, that he likes to talk in a poetic riddle sort of way. It's self-confident, I will say. It might appeal to a certain group of people who might say, oh, he seems to know things. And maybe he does. Maybe he's very wise. I'll reserve judgment. I've seen a little bit of, people have been talking about him in the news like he's been canceled or something. He's no longer platformed because of his problematic ideas. I'm a little curious, but anyway. But I will observe that if I met him at a party, I wouldn't want to hang out with him very long if he talked in riddles, or I would ask him, like, what are you trying to say to me? And if he would level with me, because I don't know, I like plain speak. Just speak to me plainly so we can have exchange of ideas instead of me always wondering what you're saying.
Okay. I don't think Dr. Kirk Honda and I would hang out at parties either. He's not speaking in riddles. He's speaking within lover energy, again, within conceptual, more spiritual ideas, that he's a lover of his life and of the world. And, you know, he had a little smile on his face. He's being playful. He's not trying to be logical and be straight. There's no being straight with you within this conversation. What are you seeing here? I'm even, it's fun. This is a challenge for me. These videos are a challenge for me because, #1, I know this Dr. Kirk Honda for a long, long time. I said in another video, I've watched or I've listened to his podcast actually since over a decade ago, and I love his stuff. However, these videos, I don't know if he's intentfully acting kind of fucking naive here to the social dance that's happening. It doesn't seem like he's being naive. It seems like he's maybe being critical. But what's your impression of the way Andrew Tate is speaking here?
Well, I noticed I kind of giggled when he said, "Why am I here? Because you asked me to be here." Because there's a certain level of vibrato, and I want to use the word cocky, but I don't mean it in a negative way, that I myself would never like put out there. But I respect someone who does and who owns themselves. I can feel into a little bit of what Dr. Honda is saying, because it feels like there's a little bit of covering up of some, like a tiny bit of vulnerability with that kind of vibrato, but I also respect that, and I'm surprising myself because I respect that a lot more than if someone, especially a man in his masculine, was getting very internal and like, I don't really deserve to be here, but I'm lucky to be here. I would be like, oh, I'm not really drawn to be attracted to that person, although I might be drawn to just talk to them as a human being.
I mean, if they weren't like Andrew Tate here, if they were more weak and didn't feel like they should be there.
Yeah, they're more apologetic.
Yeah.
For self.
Well, something you said a moment ago, that that Andrew Tate's maybe covering up a vulnerability with the way that he's speaking. What makes you think that?
There is something that Dr. Honda said about the poetic speak that I have experienced in men when they haven't fully embodied their solidness, their depth, integrated their own confidence, and they're working on it, but it's kind of a like putting it out here, like, see, like I got my stuff together, I'm cocky, I'm attractive, and that's fun, but there's also a little bit of a mismatch, because when I experience a man who's really integrated that, there is a presence and a solidness and a clarity in his energy that I feel more than actually hear him say. So the words make me a little like hesitant to believe without feeling the energy backing it yet.
I mean, he is wearing sunglasses inside. So let's keep going.
Bright light.
I used to think that it was the man, and I was actually accurate, thinking that it was the man who was selling himself to the woman. But once you reach a certain level of achievement as a man, it's the woman who's trying to sell herself to you.
Okay, so he's laughing, so maybe he's just making a joke. But why does anyone have to sell any? I mean, I suppose when you're going out on a date, you're presumably, on average, both trying to sell yourself to someone. Plus, we don't want to be heteronormative, but to generalize to 3.5 or 4 billion people on the planet, every heterosexual relationship is this way, every man is this way, every woman is this way, every dating relationship is this way, is, let's just say, not borne out in the data.
I'm not sure what Honda's talking about here, honestly. So Andrew Tate was, in my remembrance, in my opinion, is speaking about himself, in which a man that most men feel incredibly insecure and unsure of themselves when they begin approaching women and speaking with women for lots of reasons that, you're aware of, right? Okay. And so we feel like we have to prove ourselves to the woman. That may not be the right approach, but that's how it feels, and it actually, there's a lot of reasons behind that, right? She's going to ask what your job is, she's going to be curious what your job is. Hence, how much money do you make? Are you ambitious? Are you successful? Women really qualify a man. And the women are the one that choose the gateway to sexuality, to open sexuality between the two of them. The woman is the gatekeeper for sexuality. The man is the gatekeeper for relationship, which is a conversation for another time. But what Andrew Tate's saying here is that he's shifted his mindset to one of, he wants her to show him something. Is she interesting? What does she bring to the table? What does she bring to this conversation? Instead of me being a dancing monkey, which I'm going to ask you about that here in a second. Instead of me being a dancing monkey, what is she bringing to the situation? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I can tap into what Dr. Honda said, but to start with Andrew Tate, absolutely. If the masculine's in the mindset that he has to earn the approval of the feminine energy in front of him and prove himself, and she's at a higher level than him, and maybe he could never get her, but he's going to try, to a woman that's not going to feel inspiring, that's not going to help her feel your innate value. And what I wish for long-term relationships and dating relationships is that each person is bringing their own gold to the table. Each person is inspiring the other, and in their polarized way, in their feminine way and in their masculine way. And that really creates sexual attraction for long term, but it also helps down the road without this, like, who has more power in the moment, who's got the upper hand, which kills relationship and kills marriage. And whoever's on the downside of that, it's horrible. It's so degrading for a man, and a woman ends up not respecting and honoring him. And then on the other side, I've felt that too, where she never feels good enough, never feels seen and heard and understood. So to me, it's just a no-win situation if the mindset is without each masculine, feminine energy kind of showing up for the other, but in totally different ways.
I've handled a bunch of difficult situations in my life. I'm not intimidated. Let's leave it at that. We'll see how it goes. I would say I'm pretty confident, overall. Yeah, I think confidence is born from adversity, right? Everything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh, I see. So he was reacting to going on a show where he is being scrutinized. He's being vetted by someone who was looking for a dude to date. And so he's saying, I used to think that it was the man's job to sell himself to a woman, but now tables are turned because I'm an awesome dude, and so I'm above it. It just reminds me of kids in middle school, all of us really, like, yeah, I could take it or leave it, whatever. And you just know that they're pretty desperate for acceptance and love.
Can Cheyenne ask you whatever she likes?
Anything she likes. Find the most difficult question on the planet. Tell her to throw her question card away, write a new one. I'm ready. I better be good. I better struggle, which is obviously impossible. So she should at least try to make me struggle. I spent my life fighting in the cage. I'm not scared of her. I think relationships are a beautiful thing. I think that the synergy between men and women are a beautiful thing if they are correctly collaborated. I think that that's what makes society function. I think that's what makes the world function. I think that men and women falling in love and having children and having families are very, very beautiful things, as long as it's done correctly, as long as the woman obeys like she's supposed to.
I was wondering where that was headed because it sounded along those lines, but then he just flat out says that women are supposed to obey men. Yeah, he was using phraseology from conservatives and traditionalists and sexists who will say that the natural order of things is when men and women have children, you shouldn't have gay relationships, you shouldn't have women who aren't with a man who don't have children. These are absurd, illogical, unscientific, oppressive notions that are just ridiculous on its face. I mean, I'm sure I don't have to explain why that's ridiculous to anyone. Everyone has the freedom to choose what they want to do, and if someone wants to have kids, they can have kids. If they want to have a traditional relationship and they have the freedom to make a choice otherwise, then they can make that. People can have whatever relationship they want. The path to happiness and goodness is, and you notice that he says that a well-functioning society is when we have that. And I will say that according to whom. So if you're a man and you are interested in power and you're insecure, which is why you're interested in power, and you want things to be predictable and you come from a traditional mindset, then yeah, you want things to be conservatively traditional. You want things to be the way that they were in the 50s when women had to obey, or else they would be all sorts of consequences that I won't get into that I imagine you can imagine. Women who were being abused couldn't go to the police, they couldn't go to their family, they couldn't go to society. Sometimes they didn't even have access to these things. So there were all sorts of things in place to keep women in place, to keep women as subservient. And so as a man, just being born a man, you were just given this power, given this privilege. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted to women and get away with it. We're emerging out of that, of course. And The only reason why you would want that privilege is if you were insecure or you're a psychopath or a sadist. You want to harm other people. You want to control other people. Because for myself, I don't want that privilege. You could hand that to me and say, look, you could press this button and I will make your wife subservient to you. You could do whatever you want to her and everyone will support you. I would say, I don't want that. Why don't I want that? Well, it's because I don't need it and I don't have a desire to harm anyone. Plus, I want a partner who's equal, who is on my level. And when she loves me, it feels like a choice instead of being forced into it. So that's what I would want. When I ask my wife, what do you want to have for dinner? I don't want her to go like, well, what do you want for dinner? I want her to think about what she wants for dinner and we can please each other and find a common ground. And that's what any rational human wants. And you would only want otherwise if you are insecure, attachment, insecure, traumatized, indoctrinated, worried on some level. So then he just flat out says that he wants women to obey. Let's rewind that.
Function, I think that's what makes...
Yeah, we're about to listen to it again. I was with Andrew Tate up until he said, and then he wants women to obey. I agree with Honda as far as that goes. The only other thing I want to mention here is desiring power doesn't necessarily mean it's because of insecurity. What if you want to make a change in the world? Or what if you want to accumulate wealth so then you can give it away or give it to nonprofits or open a boys and girls club, which is something that I'd love to do here in our own town. It takes about $2.5 million to get it off the ground, and then it needs to be funded over time. What if I wanted to grow power and wealth so I could do those types of things within my life? What if I want to have more power so I have more freedom within my own self to be more creative, to grow my family, things like this? But I agree with, of course, a lot of these things. Well, if I could ask you specifically, Dr. Kirk Honda there threw a lot of words around, which I don't agree with many of them. But there's a difference between obey and subservience and submissive and feminine. And so those things could be seen, within like a spectrum of what does that mean within the dance of relationship. What are your thoughts there, right? Obey, subservient, submissive, feminine.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably everyone has their own emotional resonance with words. Like for me, I wouldn't put in that spectrum feminine. Even the word submissive makes me as a woman feel powerless, like someone could just take away my power. And like here's like noting power is important for all of us. So those actually cause me like to feel a lot of pain, but I also have experienced that people enjoy that spectrum. There's lots of relationships or even kink is on the table where they like playing with submissive and obey me, and there's contracts involved. So that is a way to dance with dark energy. In my personal I want to say like totem pole, does surrender to me kind of encompasses my version of femininity, which has incredible strength and power and incredible softness and incredible courage, because to surrender to someone in the moment, sexually, to surrender to your partner in bed where you're really taking in all of their energy and allowing it to infuse you, that takes tremendous courage and tremendous self-power. So I think words like labels can get tricky, but everyone's allowed to live in whatever spectrum makes them feel empowered, powerful within self. And sometimes that's play with power over and powerlessness, as long as that is a stabilizing force for men or women.
I think that's what makes the world function. I think that men and women falling in love and having children and having families are very, very beautiful things as long as it's done correctly. as long as the woman obeys like she's supposed to. And I think the world can be a beautiful place as long as gender roles are not misconstrued and misunderstood. So if Sean doesn't understand that, I'll correct her quickly and we'll fix the world and we can move on.
And then tying it into traditional gender roles, which are fine if people choose them, if people want them, which many people do. But if you don't want them, then you don't do it.
Very nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi.
You look really nice.
Thank you. Let's do two kisses. 1, 2.
Ah, very nice to meet you.
Very
What's your
nice to meet you. Andrew Tate, what's your name?
Okay, so guys love it when I give feedback of something that's happening in an exchange. And so I'll do that right there. So Andrew Tate, the whole, let's do 2 kisses, 1, 2. He's already leading her. He's leading her into more intimacy. He's seeing how she dances with him as he leads in this way. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I noticed that too. And I noticed that it kind of, not necessarily a bad way, caught her off guard, because it was almost like she was expecting to lead something herself. And with him leading with that foot, she was like, oh, just like pattern break.
Andrew, nice to meet you. Cheyenne. Or Cheyenne Reynolds, if you're doing this whole thing.
Cheyenne Reynolds. We're gonna do official.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nice to meet you.
Cheers. I think she's an attractive woman. She's good looking.
And you notice that she just went and did the cheers first.
Huh.
So they both like leading, I think.
Friendly demeanor. I can tell she thinks she knows things, so I look forward to correcting her.
My God, the amount of insecurity dripping off this human being. Now, might he suffer from a personality disorder that actually makes him believe this? Right? So there are 2 paths to this distorted way of thinking. One is that you actually believe it consciously, and the other one is that you're consciously making a choice to adjust for something that you feel like you have to. Going back to middle school, you're in 7th grade, and you feel ugly and unacceptable and unpopular, and you know it. And someone comes up to you and says, your outfit looks stupid, and you actually believe your outfit looks stupid. And so you resort to saying something that you know isn't true even to you. And you say, well, actually, this is popular in Europe now. It's trending in Europe or something. You know you're lying. You know that you don't believe it, but you're just hoping that it will fly and that people will think you're actually cool. So that's one path. Another path is where you actually consciously believe that you're better than other people. And this is a coping mechanism that is available to humans when we're suffering from, generally speaking, neglect, emotional neglect growing up, where we're 1 year, 2 years old, 3 years old, and we want attention, we want attunement, we want people to love us and to accept us and to be there for us. And when they're not, we only have a certain set of coping styles, a certain group of personality traits that are available to us to protect us from the terribleness of being neglected and being alone. Because it's very scary to be a child in and of itself, but it's particularly scary when you have no one to run to that will reassure us and hold our hand or hug us. One of the available coping mechanisms is what we call narcissistic personality, which is a choice that children will make. And most of this is subconscious, of course, but over time, the child decides, you know what, I'm going to pull away from people. I'm going to push away from people, and I'm going to depend on the self, because I obviously can't depend on anyone else, which is a big bummer. Even though on the inside, I still desperately long for someone to love me and accept me and hold me. But I'm going to back away, because every time I reach out emotionally and behaviorally, I get rejected, or most of the time I get rejected. So it's just better to turn away. So I'm going to kind of force myself to do that. And in order to do that, I have to suppress my emotions. I have to not even really notice them. And over time, when you don't pay attention to your body, which is where your emotions are coming from, it's actually hard to even notice your emotions. So at the age of 35, after developing this way neurologically when you're young, you might be asked, what are you feeling? And the person will say, nothing, I don't feel anything. Even though on the inside, they actually are feeling a lot of emotions, but they just neurologically aren't used to paying attention to it. So anyway, so they turn away, but they still need some source of self-esteem. And no one is praising them. No one is paying attention to them. No one is validating their existence. So they turn to the self. They validate themselves. They say, I'm awesome. I'm the best. Well, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, they don't have a very gray, nuanced point of view of the world and themselves. They have a very black and white view. So they resort to it's okay to have self-esteem, to be like, I'm an okay person. Well, when you're 3, you don't have that nuance. You say, I'm the best. And you'll see kids do this all the time. I'm the best drawer, or I'm the best runner, because they're black and white thinkers and they're trying on an identity. They're trying on self-esteem. But when you need to resort to this source of self-esteem and you're the only person that is validating you, then you adopt this black and white thinking and you retain it into adulthood, where you are the best. You consciously believe you are the best. You are amazing. You're better than everyone. And if you're not better than everyone because you're a black and white thinker, you are worse than everyone. You're either superior or inferior. There's a constant battle and vacillation between these two states for the narcissistic individual. And in order to remain in the superior spot, they have to convince themselves and convince everyone around them that they are superior, because as long as they're establishing themselves as superior and they believe other people see them as superior, then they can kind of relax. They're very distressed individuals, though, because even when they are in that superior spot, even if they sustain that for a while, there's this underlying notion that no one loves them and no one cares about them. And there's the added, perhaps more important stress of their needs are never being addressed. Their needs for affection, their needs for love, their needs for emotional crying, emotional dependency. And they've never had those needs met sufficiently throughout their entire life since the day they were born. So they're just a massive ball of distress and lack of getting their needs met. Always running on the treadmill, trying to stay superior in other people's eyes and in their own eyes, because it distracts them from everything else and it reassures them. And as soon as that narcissistic supply dries up, they immediately fall into the black and white scenario. They immediately fall into the I'm all bad, and they fall apart. And I've seen people when they make that transition, and it is not pretty. They completely decompensate. They don't know who they are. They're untethered from reality. They're not schizophrenic, but they're very distraught, very much in distress. And so there's good reasons why they are frequently establishing themselves as superior. It can be annoying to be around those people, but to these individuals, it's very distressing. Now, there is a spectrum from people that are very narcissistic and moderately or mild. Now, I want to be clear, not diagnosing anyone, of course, because when I do diagnose people with narcissistic personality disorder, I assess them for weeks, if not months, and they voluntarily come to my office and tell me what I believe to be truthful responses to questions and have conversations. I experience them in the relationship. And through that assessment, I can confidently conceptualize individuals with this disorder. The other thing I'll say is that some public figures will adopt a narcissistic persona because it sells.
But that's usually how life works.
Finally, see, a man that makes an effort. How are you?
So this is a great example of one reason I've always enjoyed Dr. Kirk Honda. That was phenomenal. I hadn't heard it put that way before. So awesome. Very cool. What he said right at the end was something I was going to mention, was some people adopt a certain persona because it sells, or it's polarizing. So it, attracts eyeballs. And whether Andrew Tate believes what he's saying or not, I mean, I'm not inside of the man, but to me, it seems as though he's really playing up a persona that's polarizing, that someone is either going to love or hate. And he seems to be masterful as far as getting eyeballs on him. Yeah. That's what I see. Anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, I liked that too. And it made me think of, David Data often talks about just our human shadow, and often what we're drawn to watch on social media is a part of ourselves we wish we could be more like. So even like a woman, if she's watching, it's a show where they're buying incredible real estate and they wear all the perfect clothes and they have the perfect hair and it's like very just catty. There's a part of that woman watching that who's like, I wish there was part of me that could just be that shiny. And so that's what it made me remind me of even the parts of Andrew Tate that I've giggled at, because it's like, oh, part of me wishes I could be that that self.
Yeah. Yeah. We both chuckled when Andrew Tate was saying the last few ridiculous things, laughing at him, really, laughing at what he's saying, which is entertaining because it's so deviating from what we normally hear. But that is a fantastic point around that when we see shadow are things that we've suppressed or repressed about our own selves, whether through shame from culture or our family, this kind of thing. And so we watch and we're attracted to what we've suppressed or repressed, whether it's like good, bad, evil, or otherwise. We're not here to judge what that may be, but that's one reason why being polarizing is so popular. That's why it gets a lot of eyeballs. Yeah.
Finally, see, a man that makes an effort. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah? Okay, where are you from?
I'm American, but I lived in England for a long time. I lived in a very prestigious part of the UK. I don't know if you've ever heard of Luton.
Very
Prestigious.
Yeah.
Yeah, #1.
Luton, okay. Was not expecting that.
No idea what Luton is, but he is right out the gate establishing himself being from a very prestigious area. So we will note that in his opening introduction, trying to establish himself as special in some way, perhaps superior.
So he's being braggadocious here, obviously on purpose. I want to ask you what women are attracted to that kind of braggadocious stuff, because I don't see a woman and a man who understand the dance of polarity the way that we talk about, the art of love, the cultivating safety and vulnerability and openness, in addition to the skills of the art of love. I don't know if I think a woman that's aware of those things will kind of see this braggadocious in a certain way. I want to ask you about. Yeah, please.
Yeah, even the woman, even the freeze frame of her, there's a little bit of like shock, and then her arms.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Her arms are crossed. Yeah.
And I was feeling into my own body of like, but the feminine that would be attracted to that would get a real turn on by like, oh, he's high in society, he has lots of money, and if her turn on is like cars and clothes and shoes and house
and gold digging,
she might automatically be in like, I'm gonna try to like, how can I pretzel myself so I get to be the one that he takes care of in this way.
By the way, guys, if you're a relationship type of man, if ultimately you want a relationship and that's why you're dating, then leading with your wallet is a horrible idea. So don't lead with your wallet.
So I was in Luton for a while, and now I live in Europe, so I've just come in, yeah.
Okay, because your accent, it's like really different, isn't it?
It's pretty mixed up. I'm like a street dog, my dear. I've been here, I've been there. Half American, half English, half Luton, half everything else.
A bit of a mix?
A bit of a mix.
That's cool. So how did you get here today?
I flew in this morning.
Flew in? It's different? Something different?
Yeah. Jump on the jet.
You flew in on a jet? Who is this guy?
What about you? You have a mix, no?
Yeah, my family, we're Caribbean and English.
So the Caribbean side's the crazy side? Or the English side's the crazy side?
I'd say the Caribbean's the fun side.
A bit
spice.
So you're fun and crazy?
Not crazy.
I mean, it's the beginning of the day.
He's doing what I call a bookend, which is making an assertion and then putting the person or playing the person into that assertion and seeing what they do with it. Like, which side is the crazy side? As in, she has a crazy side. Tell me about your crazy side. Let's get this more emotional. Let's bring emotional range into the conversation. And so he put a bookend there. Now, I want to give a note about that. If you feel as a man that your woman is bookending you, like you're always lazy or you never do this, okay? The tactic there, let's say, is to ignore the bookend. You don't have to play into the frame that someone else is putting you in. In fact, you can just move right past their assertion. Often a woman will put a man in a bookend. The men that we work with often, right? The relationship is in a bad spot. She wants separation. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. So the men that we work with, the relationship is generally not going well. So they come to us because the men that come to us want to save the relationship or renew the love between the two of them. Mm-hmm. So often the man is the one on his back foot and chasing too much and being too much of a nice guy. So with our clients, the woman is the one that's putting the man in the bookend. And what that does to you as a man is you're kind of reeling. You feel like you need to defend yourself. You need to explain yourself. And why is that not a good way to go for a man to, especially when the woman's angry? Like, let's say your wife is angry with you and she makes an assertion and bookends you in a certain place. And now I have to defend that I'm not in that frame. I have to explain why that's not true. What happens if, well, I don't have to, but that's what men think. You don't want to do that. That's what we teach, is how to not be on your back foot defending and explaining. And why is that not a good thing, to be defending and explaining like that as a man?
Well, I see bookending as a power play and a one-upmanship. And, it could be used in a very sexy way. Even this freeze frame of her, even though she kind of verbally denied it, she's a little like contrite, but it is a power play. And if she is bookending you there, she's like, I got the upper hand. And then what I experience if men are like, I have to play this game that she's saying we have to play, this verbal game, and you're trying to then get the upper hand over her, she's going to feel like the masculine in her will be up for the fight. The feminine in her will feel so unseen, so unheard. And that's really because her way of playing is she's trying to make an emotional impact or share something from an emotional place, and to be met with a logic never accomplishes what truly needs to be resolved. And then unfortunately, if you are a man then like are backpedaling and defending yourself, it's just going to fill her with a sense of power over, like she needs to be the mommy energy, and it will be a disdainful, like, feeling in her body, and not a welcoming, communicative, embracing energy, even if you have the perfect argument on the other side.
Yeah. If you have questions about this type of scenario, if you as a man feel like you're being put into this, or anyone who's watching this has questions about this, post in the comments, please. Absolutely. Myself or Cynthia are happy to respond in the comments, or reach out to us directly, right? Our links are below, so check those out.
Now, it's a date, so people are going to have small talk in their particular way, but I'll note that right out of the gate, prior to the date, he's talking about women being under control and that they need to obey men. And you could argue that he either consciously or unconsciously knows that by negging her, if you study the pickup artist community like I have, because I had clients who would come to me, and then I've had a lot of people write into the podcast from the pickup artist community talking about their experience, and it's varied, but not great overall in terms of the indoctrination, in terms of certain ideas. But anyway,
So negging is actually intentfully putting the woman down in some small way. And I don't believe that's what he did. It was, as we described, it's a bookend, like, oh, where's the crazy part of you? What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, under that kind of intensive, like, no, you are this, I might collapse a little. However, it also, I could see him, it's like an invitation for her to surrender. Can you surrender to this experience and play with me, play with this banter? Reveal to me right away something far deeper that you're hiding beneath, like the perfectly coiffed hair, the perfect outfit. What is the deeper feminine beneath a very polished exterior?
Manosphere. But anyway, so for him, he is establishing like, well, which side of your family is the crazy side? Meaning that you must be crazy, which is another notion. I don't know if this is where he's coming from, the echo chamber and the brainwashing within that echo chamber, that if you have a beautiful woman, then she must be crazy. That is a ridiculous notion on its face, which I don't have to deconstruct, but I don't know if that's where he's coming from, or he's coming from a place of putting her on her heels, that she's now in a position where she has to establish herself as not crazy. She is guilty before proven innocent, right? And it might be also another technique that he uses, and who knows, maybe again, it's just him making small talk, but he could also be using this as a foundation to say, if later on she is bothersome to him, he could say, oh, that's your Caribbean side coming out. And then again, she's in a position of having to defend herself. I don't know. It's just a guess.
Do I look like I'd lie to you?
Yes.
I'm not a liar, actually.
You're not a liar. Everything you tell me for the rest of this episode is going to be a complete truth.
Yeah.
Promise me.
Yeah.
Say I promise.
I promise. No, I really promise.
We'll see.
All honest thoughts and opinions.
Okay. In my opinion, you tell me, she's really enjoying this banter. She seems like big smile on her face. Now he's playing a game. He's introduced a game with her that he's leading. And I'm curious to see what he's going to ask her. I'm in the game already. Like, oh, where's this going to go? And the whole crazy, I mean, I don't know what his motivation is really, but to me, it looks like he's trying to have fun. He's trying to bring emotional range to the situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I think her hesitation is mostly, can I trust him yet? Because he's offering ways for her to be very open and very vulnerable. And she's just like, I'm not sure if you can truly hold the space of that yet. And I think that speaks to, what Dr. Honda was saying in terms of like, well, this could be a way for him to be in control. And I was saying, well, it could be a way that he's bantering, inviting her surrender. Those two they're not total opposites. Let's say we all have these innate, beautiful desires with one another between masculine and feminine. It's just that they get sometimes, we don't know how to like really guide them through a very embodied sacred portal. And so they come out in very shadowy ways, when on the flip side, there's a very spiritual way to meet the same exact desire, the same exact instinct, the same exact masculine energy and feminine energy.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah.
Again, there's a unidirectional demand there. She says, I'll tell you the truth, and he is very pointed about that. I'm guessing he's been down a road like this before and knows he's going to get into some conflict. We see him looking away a lot, lack of eye contact. She's looking at his eyes. He has sunglasses on when he's inside. Maybe he has an eye condition. I don't know. But we'll see where that heads. There's a power issue here. She's not exhibiting any power issue, any power language. He is.
Okay. Do women like powerful men? Do women like powerful energy from a man?
They absolutely do. And I'm kind of chagrined to recognize that I hadn't really picked up on that who's still wearing his sunglasses. And that does rub me wrong, because he's not allowing her to also take him in. So it's kind of a little bit like the very energy in his very beginning. He's all out here without really showing the inside. And I think women are very attracted to powerful men, and we could have the level of, she's attracted to your power in the world, your power in your wallet, your power over other people. And then there's also women who are attracted to your internal power, your power within yourself as a man, the power you hold in your own masculine consciousness, the power you have as you in the masculine feel your own desires and energies. That is so compelling and so attractive. And then there's everything in between.
Yeah, it's very well said.
So what do you do?
Let me think of a lie. Give me a second.
No, you can't lie.
You have to tell the truth. I don't have to tell the truth.
Why?
We already agreed. You're telling the truth. There's only one of us can tell the truth. One of us can lie.
That's not good stuff.
I'm a shoe salesman. I sell shoes, socks, shoe accessories, polish, etc., etc.
Yeah?
Yeah, I sell shoes. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if he's lying.
This is fucking hilarious. Like, this is fun. I think this. I don't want to be a woman, but this is fun. Like, here we go. Let's go.
lying right now or not, but I will say that's a very strange way to have a conversation on a first date. Unless he thinks this is funny, I don't think she sees
I
it.
wonder how many dates Dr. Kirk Honda's been on. Or how many boring dates.
I would just imagine this would be confusing.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Let me think of a lie. Give me a second.
No, you can't lie.
The other possibility is that he's insecure about his job, and so he doesn't want to talk about that. I don't know.
You have to tell the truth. I don't have to tell the truth.
Why?
We already agreed you're telling the truth. There's only one of us can tell the truth. One of us can lie.
That's not good stuff.
I'm a shoe salesman. I sell shoes, socks, shoe accessories, polish, etc., etc.
Yeah?
Yeah, I sell shoes. Yeah.
That's good at it.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
I'm surviving. Sold 2 pairs of shoes yesterday. Life's good.
Okay, that's good. He's a liar. So tell me a bit about you, Andrew.
I'm not comfortable opening up too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you might work for.
He's a liar. He's a liar. Like, okay, guys, he's playing. Come on. Let's keep going.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you might work for John Law and the government.
No.
I have to be careful what I say.
Oh, so it's not commitment issues.
Right off the bat, just regular, he agreed to do this. He flew in from out of town to be on the show to date this woman. Right off the bat, just regular questions, icebreakers, if you will. And he's saying he's suspicious and he has to be careful to talk about things, which I don't know what that means. Is he actually suspicious of that question? Or is he covering something up? Is this a power play? Is it a weird idea of a joke? Is he trying to have some banter with her? I don't know, but it's notable. I'm curious where this is going.
Yeah, he's having fun. He's having fun. He's bringing emotional range to the situation.
I do find myself craving, though, like after the banter and the obvious joking, to then have the range where he kind of takes off his glasses and goes, well, seriously, this is, who I am, and this is what I like to do. And then he can go back to like the banter. And then it almost becomes a game for her. And we could go back to this original, like, she has to show herself on like what she have. Like, is she willing to ride the waves with him? And her reward for slowly moving into surrender with him is that then he goes a little deep, and then he plays a little, and then he goes a little deep. And that feels incredibly intoxicating. And it also shows that kind of his internal power, that he knows his own range and that he's the conductor of his own range and what he chooses to share and what he chooses to play with in the relationship space. And that's so attractive.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome stuff.
No, it's not commitment issues. It's more just like legality issues.
Oh, okay.
I like to go to church. I'm a man of God. Play Scrabble.
Do you have faith?
Okay, this is good. This is an interesting conversation that we can have on camera, which is.
I'd say my personal journey with God is between me
Okay,
and God.
he actually seemed uncomfortable. He moved his glass when she asked him that question, and that did look like some more real him. Like, okay, here we go. Like, oh wow, it seemed like the persona was he's taking the mask off for half of a second. Glasses are still on, masks. Kind of see like, okay, he's a little uncomfortable with this. Let's go.
And she's waiting. She's like, she's very curious. Oh, like, what is he going to say?
Well, that's to your point. She wants to learn about the real him.
Yeah.
The depth. Without
that, there's no way she can be attracted to him, except if she's like, this man has a private jet, so how can I get in his good graces?
Yeah. Gold diggers don't care if you're deep. You already did the digging. She just takes it, right? Yeah.
So I'm not one of those people that is like, yes, I go to church, or yes, I do this.
Don't you think that's a bit like lazy Christianity?
No, not really, because for me,
Okay, that was a neg. Don't you think that's lazy Christianity?
I believe in...
Again, putting her on her heels, he accuses her of something, basically saying, you're a lazy Christian, which she didn't mention being Christian at all. But she said she has faith and she doesn't go to church. I guess maybe the word church would maybe tip off Christianity. I don't know. But it's a technique or a tendency or something. He could have learned that. Maybe this is just his way. I don't know. But we will note, if I were her, I would say, okay, so you've accused me, you've lied to me, or at least you've implied you've lied. You've now called me a lazy Christian, knowing nothing about me. I've told you one sentence about my spirituality. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about? Do you not like me? Is there something you want to talk with me about?
Yeah. Don't try to turn into the person's therapist in the middle of a date. Okay. Like, not a good idea. But I guess I should say the point of a neg within pickup is that she then feels the need to prove herself to you as the man. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't like tactics. I think they're bullshit. I think a good woman is going to sniff that out in a second. You're going to scare a good woman away. How jaded is a woman going to be if she feels like you're playing these games and intentionally putting her down so that she then has to prove herself? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it was actually really hard to watch because I saw her trying in that moment to kind of open.
Right. And he shut her down.
You shut her down. And so my personality type, I would shut down. Like, I probably would have a hard time verbally showing up through the rest of the conversation. I would say that could also, in some women, make them feel really angry, and then they might have a projection or judgment back, or try to play the negging game with you. And maybe that, works for some women, but I saw here a woman trying to be like, okay, let me blossom a little for you. And he stomped that out real quick.
Yeah. And again, if you're a relationship focused guy, do you want a negging game to be going on? Do you want your wife to like randomly shit on you and criticize you because that's the dynamic that's going on? Probably not.
I believe in faith, and I don't think it's just one religion that you need to follow. I've got friends that are Muslim.
I agree.
I've got friends that are Christian. I've got friends that are spiritual, so I don't.
Yeah, now it's going really badly. She doesn't see, she's not happy, it seems as though to me. Yeah. And she's in logic mode now too. Mm-hmm. I've got friends like this. I've got friends like this. I've got friends like this.
Quickly shifted her feminine back into her masculine to compete back with him.
Put myself in one category.
I understand and I respect that completely, but don't you think out of respect for God himself, whether you're in Dubai and you go to the mosque or you're in England, you go to the church, you should get up early on a Sunday, despite all the booze, and get up and take an hour out of your life and just show some respect?
So I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of doubling down. Look at her face. I want to watch the car wreck. Here we go.
This either has to do with him projecting himself on God, and because he's saying, don't you think you should be respecting God? Since he said earlier he's a traditionalist, which has to do probably with wanting to have power over women because he's insecure and he's had a bad track record with relationships. I don't know. Or, well, another path to this actually, and I've seen this before, I've treated many people like him, honestly. I mean, not exactly, of course, but similar seeming anyway. And one of the paths to this is actually witnessing a lot of strife in one's parents. There's a lot of different pathways, but one pathway is that you have a father who was abusive to the mother, and the father's also abusive to you as a child. And you have a lot of mixed feelings about what's happening. On one hand, you hate your dad for abusing you, of course, but over time, you start to hate your mom for not standing up for you. In fact, you might be closer to your mom emotionally because she's more approachable. And so you feel like your dad is the enemy and he's distant, but you really long for closeness with your mom, and you feel more able to be angry at her because she won't abuse you. You can't be angry at your dad because he's going to overpower you. You can be angry at your mom. So you might consciously be angry at your mom, but unconsciously actually really want to be angry at your dad. So you displace it to your mom, and you start to hate your mom, even though she doesn't deserve it. And you're also adopting the attitudes of the abuser. You're actually taking on the mindset of the abuser because it's a pathway to power and to acceptance. So you end up maybe even abusing your mom emotionally and maybe physically. And then over time you grow up and you just have this intense need to establish power over women, because as a child, you had this fantasy that if you could overpower your mom, you could tell her to stand up for you or leave your dad, and thus you would be safe. So really you're just running away from the abuse, but your conscious thought is, I want to control women. You see, so there's a pathway to that. And it can be really quite desperate for the adult individual. It's not felt, they don't know that's where it's coming from, but they just have a felt sense of anxiety when they're not in control, or when they see situations where there isn't that control over women, because they're transferring their past onto what's happening now.
No, because everyone's journey with God is personal.
You can be a lazy spiritualist, a lazy Christian, you can be a lazy kickboxer, right? I'm a kickboxer, but I don't train. Okay, bro.
Again, why would you want to define other people's lives? And what gives you the right? So someone that considers himself
I mean, if I had to guess why he's saying this in the post interview, is because it didn't go well the rest of the date. And so now he's like kind of saving face, it seems as though, by putting her down in the post here.
Christian or whatever, and doesn't go to church,
by the way, body language is frozen on him right now with his mouth like this. Like he knows he just shit on her. Like, yeah.
Andrew Tate defined that person as lazy. That implies that they want to go to church, but they lack the energy or the commitment or something. Maybe it's something different. Or even getting to kickboxing. He's mentioned being in the ring. Is he a kickboxer? You could define yourself as a kickboxer and not work out very often. You're just like, yeah, you know what? I like to do it occasionally. It's more of a side hobby than anything else. And that's what I like it and to be in my life. And according to him, you're not a real kickboxer. You're a lazy kickboxer. And what's it to you? And that's really what you have to just ask yourself. Like, if you experience someone like this, like, what is it to you? Why is it so important to you? What is personally at stake for you that someone else doesn't go to the gym all the time, or that someone doesn't go to church? What is it to you? There must be something in this for you that is making you upset, that is causing you to have illogical statements like this.
Yeah, that's a great point by Dr. Honda there. Like, why are you so intensely judging me? So this is something to be aware of for all of us, is if I'm all of a sudden feeling intensely bad about myself, like intensely bad because this person's judging me, showing contempt for me, putting me down, it's like, well, I'm not attracted to that situation. Yeah. Now, there's the dynamic. If your wife is judging you, attacking you, putting you down, well, then how do I hold space for her? How do I be calm in that? Because now I'm feeling unduly judged. And we teach about this. One thing you could do, and we could talk about this much more in depth than we do within our trainings, is pause the situation if you're feeling overly attacked to the point where you're losing control of your own emotions. Let's say, you're starting to get angry or push back, or you're starting to make these facial expressions like, what the fuck? This kind of spot is to pause what's going on and take space, take a break for both of you to calm down and hopefully come back together in a less judgmental, much more loving, high mood space. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, especially, we're watching a dynamic, with the masculine being in judgment, but then it is very similar if the feminine's being in judgment, and what I imagine it's like on the other side of that. One thing that hit me too is Andrew Tate is hammering this idea of respect and discipline, and putting on the table that respect and discipline kind of come above all else is inherently a more masculine set of values. And so if a man was putting that on the table for me, I would have to meet that with my own masculine energy to even play the game. Whereas if a man was going to invite my feminine out, he might be asking me about what I love or what excites me about that, or what the spiritual practice that she does, how does it help her find peace and calm and creativity in her life? Then she can respond in her feminine, because that's more on her, at least her core totem pole, even if on the outside she's all about respect and discipline.
Yeah, that's awesome. What to do instead of piling the shit on. There we go.
You're lazy. It's okay.
I'm not lazy. Do you have time for God?
Absolutely.
That's good. Do you get up early on a Sunday?
Completely.
She looks super turned on now. Like, now she's like in mommy, like school teacher mode.
Yeah,
Ew. Like, he's about to get detention, not in a good way.
That's good.
Every single Sunday, of course.
That's amazing.
And I think that being religious is a beautiful thing. And I think that a lot of people try and say they're spiritual or they're religious in a way, copping out on the 1 hour a week. It just feels a bit lazy to me. I think you can always find an hour a week.
Yeah, no, you definitely could.
So maybe God sent me here to make you go to church.
Maybe you're here to enlighten me.
Maybe that.
So she's trying to make the best of it, which I'll applaud her. I mean, he's called her all sorts of names. He's called her crazy, essentially, and lazy, and not a real Christian, the posturing and the sunglasses, and she's trying to play along. She's trying to be nice. So there's that, but yikes.
That's why, yeah.
Yeah? What kind of man are you?
What's the spectrum? I need you to quantify it for me. Who's at the bottom and who's at the top?
For me,
Why is there a bottom and a top? She said, what kind of man are you? If someone asked me that on a date, I'd be like, can you give me a little bit more?
I mean, she's already got the parachute on, and she's at the door with her hand on the handle. What kind of man are you is more like, okay, let's learn about you a little bit before the time hopefully ticks by here. That's what I say. Yeah.
Detail on that question. Top and bottom, of course. There's a hierarchy to men. He's at the top. I'm going to take a wild guess. All right, well, let's end it there and pick up next time where we left off, because I've been yammering, so this video is getting a little long. So tune in next time when I continue watching this video, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.
That was super fun.
Yeah.
Much more to come on this, guys. If you like this, hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Cynthia. Bye, guys.